Hi there, I'm Blackbright, broadcasting out of the UK. Welcome to my channel. I just want to thank all my subscribers. Everyone who subscribed, thank you very much. Everyone who clicks the like button, everyone who shares, much appreciated. I wanted to talk about, it's really triggered by a comment I got on one of my old videos. It's amazing how far back people go and look at my videos and then make a comment. So, got some hair on my face. Anyway, so they were commenting about the good character requirement and whether or not if you've gone on one of these driving courses so that you don't get points on your license, whether or not you need to own up to it. So I'd already done a good character one, so I'm still going to go through it because people who haven't seen that one will need to see this one, which has got a bit more information on it. Okay, so are you good enough to enter into the UK? That's basically what it is. Are you honest enough? Are you upstanding enough? And that is basically what good character means. It's about moral turpitude. It's about whatever you've done. Technically, after the last 10 years, but it can go, even spent convictions need to be declared. So whatever you've done, are you owning up to it? And you have to own up to it, even at the risk of being rejected. So if you know you have any serious convictions, it's best not to waste your money and apply unless you've got a very good lawyer who can find who can find loopholes and who may know what is acceptable from what isn't. But from a layperson's standpoint, and I'll tell you very basically what good character means and what you will need in order to qualify to come into the UK under the naturalisation process as good character. Okay, so like I said, usually it's 10 years prior to the application, but you might as well just say forever. It's always better, first of all, let me first preface this with, it's always better to over-disclose than under-disclose and then be accused of deception. So that kind of negates all those little questions you have. If I have people writing to me, well, I've done this, I got a driving ticket, I've got a parking ticket. Like I said, better to over-disclose than under-disclose and be accused of deception. So basically you have to admit or declare any non-custodial court disposals, any out-of-court disposals, any fines, penalty notices, and like I said, that driving awareness course, any cautions, any community sentences, any undecided prosecutions, any involvement in fraud. I mean, the other day, I think I mentioned in one of my videos, somebody had taken an amount out of my account, well, trying to get it authorized. And I called up the bank and said, look, this isn't I didn't authorize this item, whatever it was. It was only £1.67, but I had not authorized it. So I called my bank and they said they'll send me a new card, which they have done, and they will have to report this to the fraud agency because because I've declared it as not being my purchase. Now, what that will trigger is that will actually go on my record that I have been associated with fraud. It will also mean that they will consider me as vulnerable to fraud, and that could affect my my credit rating, which has up to this point been excellent. But now I've got this little marker on my record to say that I am susceptible to fraud because somebody somehow has accessed my account and tried to get me to authorize £1.67. So even things like that, that's what I'm trying to say. Even though you haven't directly been associated with fraud, you haven't done anything fraudulently, If somebody has done something fraudulent to you, that would need to be disclosed, because if it could be that if you don't, and then they go and check your financial, because they do a financial standing check as well. I'll come to that later. Anyway, I don't want to rattle it on like I normally do. So, so fraud in any involved in, when it's third party or not, anything that you've done with any records, putting wrong information on a form, lying about omission, violation of disclosure. So, like I said, you know, there are some people who are not literate. They don't make any allowances for people who are not literate. You can't say, oh, I didn't understand the form. Or you can't say, oh, that's not what I meant. You need to be, when you're filling up your form, you need to be with somebody who is literate and who is guiding you through step by step, so you don't make any mistakes, because you can be accused of deception, lying by omission, and dishonesty. Because sometimes they ask you questions and you don't know the answer. You know, you can go out with people. Well, not go out with people. You can have people as friends, and they come to your house maybe a few or four, 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then they'll call you and they'll say, "What's your address again?" You need to be conscious about what you're doing, where you're going. Now, if you are stopped by the police and you say, "Oh, I'm going to go and see so and so," and they say, "Oh, what's her address?" and you're like, "Oh, I don't know her address. I always use my sat nav." What does that say about you? So you need to be conscious about things that you're writing down, literate or not literate. You need to be paying attention to detail. And that is especially with forms. So the 10 years starts from when any wrongdoing has been exposed. So supposing you have got a fixed penalty notice, the 10 years will start from the time you got that fixed penalty notice. But like I said, I would just forget about the 10 years and just see it as a lifetime investigation. Okay, so what else is there? And any violation of any of the British immigration rules in the British Nationality Act. And that's like overstaying, entering the country illegally, that kind of stuff. If you're supposed to be, you've got work, you've got permission to work, or you haven't had permission to work, but yet you've been working, or you're supposed to be working like the EU's, but you haven't been, all of those kind of things. You're going to have to disclose, and you're likely to be rejected if you haven't been compliant, because once again, you might not see it as a big thing. Or even when you were doing it, when you was thinking, oh, well, I know I'm supposed to be working, but you know what? I need a few months off. And then if you don't disclose that, it's showing you up as a liar. And if you are a liar, you do not have a good character. And that is what, that is what all this is about. When you are completing that naturalization form, especially with regard to good character, it's to prove whether or not you're an honest person. An honest person doesn't lie. An honest person doesn't try to hide stuff. An honest person won't say, "Oh, I wonder if I need to put that in. Oh, I better not put that in because that they might think this or they might think that." That's not what an honest person does. An honest person owns up to every single misdemeanor and hopes for the best. And they're willing to chance losing their money by being honest, because that is what it comes down to. Trying to cover up stuff, it's going to come and bite you on the bum. Remember President Nixon? It's going to bite you on the bum when you try to cover up. Okay, so what else have we got? Obviously it's best to have no involvement with the police at all, but nearly every one of us have had involvement with the police. Nearly everyone. I mean, I've been on one of those driving awareness courses. I would have to disclose it. So, what else have I got here? Of course, permanent ban if you've committed murder, fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, rape, kidnapping. There's a couple of other things, I think to do with the immigration rules and stuff like that. But like I said, it's important to disclose all convictions and err on the side of caution. When a conviction is minor, like a driving offence, by non-disclosing it, you could be accused of deception, like I said before, which is worse than for refusal of good character. Cover-ups can be worse, like I said. It can be worse than the crime itself. And sometimes people write to me and they say, oh, I was convicted of something nearly 20 years ago. It's been spent. Do I need to own up to it? Yes, you do. Under, I think it's under question 31 of the naturalisation application. Have you been convicted of any criminal offence in the UK or in any other country? That is spent or non-spent. The law on rehabilitation for immigration and nationality purposes changed section 140 of the Legal Aid and Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act in 2012. This means all convictions, including spent convictions, have to be declared in an application for naturalisation. In Northern Ireland, if it's unspent, you only have to declare unspent convictions. But in the UK, in England, you have to declare spent and unspent. Okay, so I hope this is making it clear. What else is there? Fixed penalty notices are not always technically criminal convictions. It depends on how the incident was treated by the police at the time. Good character is not only about criminal convictions, but about wider behaviour. And that's what I was saying about honesty, lies, little lies, lying by omission. Some people say, oh, well, I forgot to say that. It's still a lie because there's no proof that you forgot to say that. You could have deliberately omitted that piece of information. And that piece of information is valuable. It's like some people, they say, oh, I lived at a place for 3 years when they only lived there for 2 years. That is a lie. And if it's less than 3 years, you can't get credit. And some people say, oh, I've lived there for 3 years when they haven't lived there for 3 years, just so that they don't have to give the stream of addresses prior to those 3 years. Because that's what happens. It's unlikely you're going to get any credit if you haven't been in an address for 3 years, or you seem to be having lots of different addresses, or you've only stayed 6 months here, 6 months there, all over the bloody place. Then you don't look stable. So if you don't disclose the fact that you've lived at this address and that address and this address, that is deception. And that is what they mean by good character. It's not just about criminal conviction, it is about the wider overall character. All these little lies you think, oh, well, I've got away with it for so many years, they'll come and bite you in the bum when it comes to an application form for naturalisation. Believe me, it will. Because they don't want people here anyway. They don't want any foreigners here unless they really, really have to be here. So they have to be la creme de la creme. They have to be at the peak. They have to be almost perfect in order to get in. So not only do you have the points-based system, which means good command of English, excellent salary, you're financially sound, you've got a job or you've got a sponsor, and you've got all of these skills, technical skills. But on top of all of that, You have to have a good moral character. So that means they don't want any dibby people in their country. So it's no point lying about whatever indiscretions you have committed, because they will go through tooth and nail to try and find out if what you're saying is honest and true, because they don't really want you here. So if you do get in, you have to be squeaky clean. Or there'll be some things, even though they ask you to disclose parking fines and speeding tickets, those are technically reasons for them to reject your application. Maybe if you were speeding 100 miles over the limit, they might think, oh, that is showing blatant disregard for the law. Or if you get lots of fixed penalty notices that you haven't paid. Or council tax is another thing. If you haven't paid your council tax, that's another big thing that can get you rejected. So, it's about, there's certain things in the country that you are meant to do. And that is like paying for a TV license. It's like I've just said, paying your council tax. Even debt can stop you from coming into the country, can get your application rejected. So you've got to be really, really careful. You've got to, in other words, it's about you doing things properly, being responsible. Now, if you're a responsible person, you are not going to accrue debt. Forget about the coronavirus for a minute now, because, there's going to be lots of people in debt through no fault of their own. And so I'm not talking about this scenario as we're in now. We're talking about your past, say pre-coronavirus. If you've got loads of debts and you haven't paid rent and people have been, you've got people on you and it's been, they put it to the, it's been passed on to these debt collectors and stuff. That's not going to look good, because that's showing that you're irresponsible. And that's a part of your wider character. Okay, so what else is this? Oh, yes. So where it says, like I said, question 31 is about have you been convicted of any criminal offence in any country? This does include road traffic offences, speeding, parking, even though they're not part of the criminal offence. Okay? They must be disclosed. So, and the financial soundness of it, like I was mentioning, bankruptcy, that would cause you to be rejected. I will say, I won't say will, may. Liquidation of a company can cause you. Debts, like I said, non-payment of payment tax. Deception and dishonesty is automatic refusal. And sometimes, like I said, even if you didn't realise, people make genuine mistakes, and unless you can prove it's a genuine mistake, that you've omitted something and that it's not deception. And, there could be a mitigating factor or mitigating reason why the application isn't 100% correct. But do try at the offset. You don't want to lose 1,400 or 1,600, however much it is now. You don't want to lose that money just because of a silly mistake. If you can't remember, it's best not to complete the form until you have all the information that can inform your document. Because once you have your documentation, just don't try to rush it. Some people think, oh, because of deadlines and this and that. You're better off. That's another, that shows that you're not organised. You shouldn't be rushing it, because these things take time. So you need to have all the information up front, so you don't have to think, was it 1968 or was it 1967? Was it 1972 or was it 1973? Did I live at 25 Fleece Close? Oh, was it 28? Please, close. It was so long ago. I'll just put down 25. It doesn't matter. Was my telephone number 775668? Or was it 66877? If you're not sure, don't put it down. They'll call it deception. They'll call it dishonesty. They're not going to say, oh, he might not be able to remember. We say that. We say, oh, I can't remember this. Oh, it doesn't really matter. And we don't realize that we might be called to remember things that we have just totally forgotten. I mean, sometimes I get my bank people calling me up, and in order to verify that I am who I say I am, well, I call them for something, and in order for them to verify I am who I say I am, they say, so can you tell me the last 3 purchases that you did? And to be honest, even if those last 3 purchases was last week, I've already forgotten because I've already paid for them and I'm just waiting for them to be delivered. I'm not sitting there thinking, okay, I've spent £23.40 on that. I've spent £10.90 on that. And I've spent £6.67 on that. I'm not thinking that. And you know how many times I've failed the security because I cannot remember what I spent my money on. And that was just last week, let alone those of us who need to remember information from years ago. All I'm saying is don't guess. If you can't remember and you're not 100% sure, get it verified in whichever way you can before putting it down on the form. And of course, I think that is that. Well, what I wanted to say is ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, it's no excuse. Some people say, oh, I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news. I didn't know that only 6 people. There was a rule of 6. I didn't know I had to be in the house by 9 o'clock. Because I don't watch TV. It is too depressing. So the fact that you don't watch TV because it's too depressing, and you don't know there's a rule of 6, and you don't know that there's a curfew after 9 o'clock, do you think when the old Bill picks you up on the street and knocks you in, you can say, oh, I didn't know? No, you can't do that. You can't plead ignorance. You need to be informed. And sometimes with everything that's going on, it's hard to be informed, and it's hard to kind of know how to filter what information you take in. But you have to just use your discretion. Maybe just listen to one set of news a day, maybe the early morning news, and then you just switch off for the rest. So at least you've got the meat. Normally, they give you the key changes in legislation first thing in the morning. Or you get something, or somebody will send you a WhatsApp, or hopefully to say this is on, or that is on, so you can keep updated. You don't have to take in everything like I said, but the key things you need to know, especially if you're trying to get into the country, you want your naturalisation, and this goes for anyone, even if you're not trying to get into the country. It does depend on you being informed. Always get a lawyer, a professional. Me, I'm not a professional. I'm just informing you of information. I make suggestions, I give information, and that's about it. And I state my opinion. That's what I do. But if you need professional advice, I can't give you advice. But if you need professional advice, you do need to go to the www.gov, G for golf, O for Oscar, V for Victor, .org. And get one of their immigration lawyers. Okay? And that's all for now. Bye-bye.